So I've had the 2240 for a little while now, and originally when I first tested it down the range, I thought it was putting out a little bit less power than I thought it should do, because I was always under the impression that this one was putting out nearly the legal 6 foot-pound limit here in the UK for a pistol. With the RWS Hobby, I think it was 3.5, 3.6. So I thought maybe, it's a used gun. I don't know when it was last serviced. So it could well be that it just needs a few new seals. I couldn't hear any leaks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a problem or a reason for it being low in power. Since then, I've subsequently got some more pellets, some heavier pellets. I had some Bisley Magnums, Barracuda 18s, and some Webley Accupels. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with the power. It's quite healthy. So hopefully, with a little bit of a service, a few little just very subtle modifications and a longer barrel, I should be putting out a little bit more power, which obviously in the carbine stock allows me to, and I'll be able to do some target shooting with this rather than obviously more just a pistol-y type shooting of 10 to 15 metres. So what I'm going to do, I've got a few other things that I'm still waiting for in the post, but they will be a little bit later. I might as well go ahead. I have already checked the seals and they didn't look too bad. But for a couple of quid I've got some brand new ones, so I know that at least now it is as it should be, and I've also got an updated transfer port as well, so hopefully that will be a little bit better. But one of the things that has happened is that my cocking lever, it snapped, or I should say it bent, and then it snapped off, which I wasn't too impressed by. So it's a brass pellet probe, but it was an aluminium CNC, and it snapped off. So I've been using a little M4 cap head. Is it cap head? I don't know, I can't remember. I was thinking about maybe getting a longer one and then getting some metal putty and making it a bolt, but I have actually got a brass bolt handle coming, so that's one of the things that I am waiting for, along with something for the hammer spring as well. But what we'll do, we'll take bits apart, change the seals, and then go from there. So irrespective of obviously the guise of the rifle, I keep calling it a rifle, the pistol, is to take the grips off. So a couple of flathead screws just either side. So I would put a link to this stock in the description, but it looks like he's all sold out. It's a shame, but it is really good. It's contoured and actually fits and slots into the pistol grip, and I have to say literally all the weight then becomes there, rather than it being forward heavy or whatever. Literally all the weight is straight down the middle, so which means that when you shoulder it, it's actually really quite nice to pull in tight. You've got the availability and the adjustability in the to move and change the positions on the buttstock and the cheek riser. So all in all, it becomes like a really nice stock actually. Yeah, very nice. So next up will be to remove the barrel band, because what we actually need to do is to take off the main cylinder, which means that we need to take off the breech, and also have a look at taking out the trigger unit as well in the frame. So we'll do that. The barrel band's off, and then just need to undo the screw at the top, the screw at the bottom, and then the breech will come off. Right, so screws out, breech screw has been undone, barrel band out of the way, which means that the barrel can now come away. So that's the transfer port, and I have got a new one which is going to upgrade that, so I'll try not to lose it anyway, but that can stay there. So next up, we need to get the air cylinder off, so we need to take the hammer out. So there's a screw underneath, we can then slide the hammer out, and then we need to start having a look at the trigger unit as well. Just remember, when you take out the screws for the trigger spring, obviously it's going to be under tension, so just be mindful that it doesn't sort of spring out everywhere. So then that can come out, and then there's a little pin that we need to pull out, and then the hammer can come out. So there's the valve in there, I can't really see it, so that's what we need to get out, and it's actually secured by a screw there. But when we take it out, I need to be careful, because the safety, there's a tiny little ball bearing and a spring which may come flying out, so hopefully I don't have to take that out, but we shall see. So that screw hole there is the one that goes through the trigger guard and holds the air cylinder to the trigger housing, and that there, tiny little spring, my god, that's fiddly. And underneath that there is a tiny little ball bearing, literally tiny. I did find a bit of an easier way of putting it back together again, but hopefully it doesn't pop out again, because it is a bit of a pain in the arse. One of the jobs that I do want to do, and I have got, it's going to be a couple of weeks yet, I think. A week? 2 weeks? I can't remember. Is adjuster for the trigger spring. But in the meanwhile, what I also want to do, I do actually want to try and polish up the sears to make them a little bit smoother, because at the minute it's a 4.5 pound trigger pull on this pistol, and that's quite a lot. It's in this single stage as well. So once we've done the seals, I'll see about trying to sort out the trigger a little bit, and then changing over for the trigger spring adjuster should be quite a simple affair, and I won't need to take the pistol apart again. Right, so let's try and put this down without losing that screw or spring. Right, so the last thing, the valve is held in by a little flathead screw, so I'll take that out, and then hopefully the valve should just slide out. Right, so the little screw came out. It's tiny little thing, it's quite fiddly actually to try and get back in. But there we go. So this is the actual valve itself, and for all intents and purposes it is actually screwed together quite tight. So you've got, that's the side that goes into the hole and secures it, and then that's the transfer port. You've then got the little piercer thing, valve stem. You've got a seal there, which obviously is where the CO2 capsule presses against. You've got a seal that actually holds the two parts of the valve assembly together. You've got the transfer port seal, and there's also a seal on the piston probe, pellet probe even. So for all intents and purposes they do look alright actually, not too bad. It doesn't normally come apart this easy. I do need to give it a little bit of a squeeze in of ice and some grips maybe. So when I was looking at it, it didn't look particularly too bad, but then again I don't know how long these things have been. The pistol could have been in storage for God knows how long, I don't know. They do dry up. So this, from what I understand, isn't a serviceable part. I don't know. It wiggles. I don't know if that's normal or not. I really don't know. Don't get me wrong, it's bloody sharp. So from that point it's good. But I don't know whether I need a new valve stem, or could do with a new valve stem, or whether that plays there literally as a fail-safe. Built, you know, it's built in to protect it, obviously when it's being pushed by the hammer, and obviously to pierce in the top of the CO2 capsule. I don't know. Anyway, they are available, and you can get modified, upgraded ones, but I didn't get one yet at the minute. So what I'm going to do, I'll change the seal at the obviously where the CO2 meets up. That's the orange one. It's quite handy because it's the same colour in that one. So let's get this out. So what I'm going to use is a little pick. Whoop. So let's get the old new one out. Let's have a little goosey gander. So compared to the new one, it's flat, it's solid. There is, I don't know if you can, probably won't be able to see this. There is a bit of a chamfer. This one's obviously quite well chamfered, as it were. It's also got the impression mark from where the capsule's been up against it, so more than likely this one could do with a change. Right, so we'll try and pick this off. So this is just the O-ring. There you go. Is there much difference? No, not really. Maybe the old one's looks a bit flatter, a bit squashed, a bit more worn. So again, we'll change it. Right, so see if we can get these on. Right, so after some hot water, a bit of fiddling around, scraping the fingernails back, that one's done. So this one, I don't know, has it got a taper to it? I really can't tell. It could just be my eyes. So what we'll do, it gets pushed in into the end. So we've got the orange seal. Same thing, put it in some hot water for a little bit, and then managed to sort of bend it, as it were, into a little taco. Managed to insert it enough to then obviously, hopefully, this should just push in. There you go. Just pushed in all the way around. My God, that's a tight fit. So yeah, when you compare the two, you can obviously tell this one's been worn. So yeah, we shall see. Let's say I've now got chrono figures for a couple of different pellets, so at least we should be able to see whether it's made a difference or not. So let's say this isn't a serviceable item. So the valve stem spring goes in. Oops. Spring goes in. You go in. Oh God. Here we go. So getting all mucked about. There you go. So that's the seal all done. Valve done. So what we now need to do is we need to do the transfer port, which is this one there. So it has got a tiny little washer in there already. Oops, there is. Just come here. So I'll show you the transfer port. It's got a big end and a little end. So the little end goes into the rubber washer, the rubber seal, and that goes into the valve. And then the big bit that sticks up is the bit that fits into the barrel, or the breech, sorry. So I've actually got a new one that negates that. So the new one comes as a single unit. So it's got a larger diameter, if you can tell that. So it's got a larger diameter for better airflow, for a better word. And the rubber seal is part of the unit as well. So the rubber seal, that way. So the rubber seal will fit against the valve, and obviously the smaller bit that's exposed will be the bit that goes into the breech, as far as I remember. It does come with instructions, so I will just double check that. But yeah, rubber seal first. Yeah, so rubber seal downwards, and then this little bit goes into the hole in the breech. So let's put that back together again. Right, so with the valve back inside the air cylinder, so what's going to happen is that the transfer port will sit in that hole there. Can't do it one-handed. And then the breech will sit on top of that. But before we can do that, we actually need to, very carefully, secure that back down with the little screw. So in the future, it all depends on how much of a rabbit hole I go down with these Crosmans, but it's secured in. Obviously there's some slack there, and obviously the rubber washer there to try and stop that as much as possible, but you can actually get it pinned. So it's actually like rock solid and stops that moving, because that movement can cause some inefficiency. But as I say, it's a rabbit hole that I'm not entirely sure I'm going to go down yet, so we'll leave it. So what I will do, before I put the transfer port in there, is I'll see about putting the frame back on the stock, the frame back on the air tube, just so I don't have to worry about little bits and pieces going missing. So I'll do that. So it's a simple job of lining up the hole in the front of the trigger unit to that hole, and that secures everything down, being mindful not to drop, lose or dislodge that screw. I keep calling it a screw, that spring. So what we'll do is put the transfer port in there, and then we'll be able to secure the barrel. Remembering to put the hammer in first, because otherwise no matter how many times I took the pistol apart the other week, I kept forgetting to do it in the right order, because obviously the breech needs to line up with the hammer and the hammer pin as well, or the little locating pin. So yeah, let's put that on. So now it's just a case of lining up the breech and then securing it down with the little breech retaining screw, which is there. I almost made the mistake for the umpteenth time. I need to put pellet probe in first as well. So the new transfer port's in, screw is secure, so now it's just a case of barrel band, hammer spring, and then these two securing screw, and that's all the seals done. And with the pellet probe O-ring seal changed as well, that's all the seals. So 2 on the valve, transfer port, pellet probe. All in all, it doesn't actually take that long. It takes longer to get the old ones off and the new ones in than it does actually to dismantle the air pistol itself. So all that's needed now is to put the stock or the handle covers back on, the scales back on, pop an O2 in it, and test it. Easy enough to do, easy enough to maintain at home.